Welcome to the Core A podcast. This week, we are going to talk about 2XKO, the game. The Riot fighting game.
Are we only talking about 2XKO? Are we going to get banned if we talk about other games?
No, I think it'll be okay. 2XKO is of course, the Riot fighting game.
Right.
And they've been working on this game for a very, very long time. And I think it's finally going to come out. I think it's been at Evo as like there's like playtesting at Evo for like so many Evos now. I think there's been at like 4 Evos or something. So
do you count the days of Rising Thunder as well? Are they counted in the timeline?
That was Radiant Entertainment before they got bought out by Riot. So that's not without that timeline or without Rising Thunder. It's still many years. I don't know exactly how many years, but
even without Rising Thunder, it's still been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while, and so they've been working, for a very long time on the game, and it's really been shaping up. I remember at the very beginning they had they revealed the development team working on Project L
office.
It was the office, and then they had I think they had 2 seconds of game clip or something. It was like 2 seconds.
Yeah, and before that, it was the snippets of the artist monitors of them drawing sketches.
Yeah, they had
like
that kind of early stage. But I think when they had 2 seconds of the gameplay, people analyzed those 2 seconds endlessly. They're looking at every single thing. I think
they
it was
paused the frame.
Yeah,
and then they're what is this character?
Yeah, I think it was Darius and maybe Ari or something.
I think Ari and Darius was the first shown.
And but it had kind of the more the art style was more like the Street Fighter art style, or the 3D models.
3D models
that looked not the cell shaded, not the Guilty Gear style. It was it was more close to Rising Thunder style. And and of course the big change they made was of course the art style later when the game was revealed again. And I think they showed Echo. Echo is, I think, the first character.
One of the first, yes.
That they showed. And I think overall it was received pretty well. I mean, I really like that art style. I think Guilty Gear Strive is probably the best looking fighting game right now, just visually and artistically. So
speaking of Guilty Gear, I don't know if you remember one of their first gameplay trailers showed off the cell shaded graphics, of course, and then it never made it to the real game in terms of gameplay, but the promo shot was that the 2 characters doing a dialogue of the intro before the phase of Radiant fight. But then what they did is they turned the camera 180 to prove that this is still a 3D modeling. But then the cell shaded graphics was so good that it looked like anime.
Wow.
Yeah. So I can probably tag the video in this, but that's what they showed. So when people saw that, people thought, "Oh, is Guilty Gear going 3D? Are we gonna have sidesteps?" That was the kind of the assumption.
Okay.
But we found out later it was a tech demo to show the crowd that this is a technology we're using.
Yeah.
But to appease the people who like the original sprite-based fighting games. To say that it does look like that, but it is a new technology kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really liking the way the game is looking right now.
Visually, it looks very nice.
Yeah, but I guess we got to playtest the game, the recent Alpha Lab 2. I mean, it feels like it's been a while by now. I guess by the time people are watching this, it'll be even longer. But the Alpha Lab 2. So I guess we can talk about kind of our impressions, and maybe we should kind of start from the beginning of our impressions from playing the game at Evo and all the versions of the game. And I guess they had made a lot of changes actually from when they first revealed the gameplay trailer. They even changed the names of some of the things. I think Dynamic Save was the burst feature.
Yeah.
They called it Dynamic Save, but then they changed the name, I think, to Break now.
Yeah,
which is
it was too much syllables. Of people were saying it didn't really catch on that much. So.
Yeah. I think Break is kind of if you call it Dynamic Save, what's going to happen is everyone's just going to call it Burst, right? So
even if it's called Break, people are going to end up calling Burst because
you think so?
Of the origins of how it started, I guess. So
all right, well,
but it is definitely easier on the on the tongue, I guess, if you call it break.
Yeah. But I guess the first thing that you notice when you go into 2XKO is that there's a lot of different mechanics, right? It's very mechanically heavy, but there's no motion inputs. So you don't have to learn, quarter circles, DP motions, and none of that stuff, right? So there's kind of this, there is an image of accessibility there, right? Because one of the things I remember Seth Killian talking about this a long time ago when they were making Rising Thunder. In an interview, he mentioned that the motion inputs being kind of one of the big barriers for a lot of people getting into fighting games. And I guess the with motion inputs nowadays, they have made it so much more lenient that it's kind of not like it was like in the Street Fighter 2 days, right? If you play Super Turbo and you're trying to do a DP, it's
on
like
reversal,
as reversal, you have to have one frame link, but just the DP in neutral. You have to it's a very strict timing. You have to do it pretty fast.
One of the disciplines also as you learn fighting games with motion inputs is like the very common ones are like trying to do a fireball while walking forward.
Oh, DP comes out. Yeah.
So that's something that the game doesn't tell you.
No,
right?
It doesn't. Yeah.
There's the Street Fighter 6 tutorial and the guides are well made. But it still doesn't tell you that you could accidentally DP if you walk forward and fireball. That's never a thing.
Yeah, you have to kind of figure that out. And then, of course, you have to know like ways around that. So, of course, one of the commonly taught techniques for avoiding that is walk forward, and then if you want to throw a fireball, do a half circle instead of a quarter
Something
circle.
like that.
Yeah, and then by doing a half circle, you the input understands it's not a DP. But that's always been kind of an issue. I actually died to that yesterday when I was playing Street Fighter 6. I did a classic walk forward, throw a fireball, and got a DP and I got like super punished for it. And so those are the kind of things with motion inputs that like you learn. And I think I still think motion inputs add a lot to the gameplay. The way that it's even with the input leniency and the buffering and stuff like that. Like now there's new techniques, of course, with the hitbox. I kind of wanted to do a short video about motion inputs because the motion input leniency now makes it kind of a different way of doing things. Remember, like DPs, I think starting in third strike, you can just go crouching and then do down forward, and then the DP will come out, right? But now you can do forward, down, up, forward as a DP, which I think is it's like forward, down, and then any diagonal forward direction. That's what the theory is, right? And so if you go on a hitbox, you can kind of take advantage of that and do what they call the fastest DP possible, right? Which is forward, down, and then hit punch and the up button at the same time. And it's like we saw this being abused at Capcom Cup. No, it was SFL finals.
Right.
It was Kawano versus Punk, and every time Punk tried to do a dive kick with Cammy, it was almost like 100%.
Yeah.
Kawano was ready with just a reaction DP, and it's like, and I know he's playing on a hitbox, and he's definitely doing the
likely so
the
because
motion.
Dive kick as an air special move.
Yeah,
it's theoretically possible to react to it every time because if you think of it as it's like a jumping attack.
Yeah,
but then there's like the instant dive kicks and like the ones where you could the aggressor can arc it differently with the different strength of the dive kick. So you could probably think of it as, I could just react as soon as she jumps. But in reality, it's not as easy as you think.
Yeah, so, depending on the angle and the situation, there is a risk of kind of whiffing your DP, or even if you get it, you might get at the very tip of a fierce DP where it doesn't do as much damage. But being able to pull it out quickly gives you more control over that situation. I felt like Kawano was almost like looking for the dive kick. And so that's pretty crazy. But I mean, so motion inputs are gone in 2XKO, but the thing is, there's so much other stuff in the game, right? That it's like when you look at the motion input aspect of it, it's really not the. That's not the. They made that aspect more accessible, but the other stuff, like the mental stack, right, is huge in that game. And I think I liked the way you referenced it. You kind of called 2XKO after we played the Alpha Lab 2. You kind of felt it was like a CVS 2 for like Marvel/anime.
Yeah.
Right. It's because like there's so many fuses, and fuses are kind of like grooves, right?
Yeah.
They're the ones that change the system of your character, which like is like drastic differences, right? So if you like one of them, is like allows you to do supers with multiple, with tag characters.
Mostly involves the technique of tagging or switching your character.
Yeah.
So obviously, if we could talk about this more later on, but then I guess the new addition is now they kind of emphasize the fact that if learning two characters is too much for you in terms of mental stack in that perspective, they did add modes to appreciate people who just want to learn one character for the moment, or even if they were to stick it that way, right?
Yeah.
But then I guess the differences in fuses are to do with the mechanics of how you want to tag, or how you want the character switching abilities to implement or influence your gameplay.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when I saw the Alpha Lab 2, I realized they didn't have Pulse as one of the fuses.
Right.
But they had like Pulse as like a separate feature. I think you had to hit RT or something, like right trigger to bring it up. I didn't mess with that. But they are kind of shuffling things, and they did bring, like you said, the
solo character versions.
It was like Juggernaut. Like there's one where it's like I think it's one where you can bring out your assist. Like it's a solo character thing, but it's kind of like Mortal Kombat, the reboot, the new Mortal Kombat,
right.
where you're
one main
and then
one assist,
and then the other characters just like acts as an assist. And I think there was another like solo function, if I'm not mistaken. But
Juggernaut is actually the one where you cannot use assist, but just that you are a stronger version.
Yeah, okay, you're like a tank.
Yeah,
it's kind of like CVS 2, where you're like you can choose to have like tank Sagat.
The higher ratio character. Yeah,
with more health, and like you just have like one tank character. So I think they kind of put that into the game. But I think that is good for the for people who don't want to learn two characters, I guess.
Yeah, there's a pro and con. Like the con is obviously that you can only use one character. Sometimes you might feel overwhelmed, but because the opponent could be using two and you only have one, you just gotta rely on the fact that you are just a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
And both of the solo versions have more resources to use. Maximum super bar goes to 5 instead of 3.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a little advantage there as well. So.
Yeah, that's right. I guess if you have two characters, you have like a total of 6 bars.
Yeah.
Right. So they got to kind of make it more even that way. But yeah, I guess there have been a lot of changes since when we first played the earlier builds.
Yeah.
And this one, I actually do like the idea of like being able to choose a single character. But I guess one of the topics that I want to talk about was this kind of this idea of a mental stack with all the features and functions of the game, and how that kind of relates to people's impression of the game when they first get into it, right? So it is kind of like a CVS2 of Marvel and anime. It's like it's almost like Disneyland for those people. It's like, oh, well, I can do I can wave dash,
right?
But then I can also do tag stuff, and then there's freestyle tagging. That's a Blaze Blue cross tag battle. And there's Marvel-y stuff and there's anime stuff, and it's a big mix of those kind of things. But because they've put so many mechanics in the game, now you're having situations where like it's very rare to have like a Marvel style game where you have, for example, a parry, right? Like no Marvel's games don't have parry, and they also don't have like a burst or combo breaker mechanic, right? Anime games do have that. But both are in this game, right? And then there's that one function. They have like a reversal, kind of that reversal DP kind of thing, but it's not a DP.
Right. The wake up attack, the get up attack.
The get up, invincible get up attack, which doesn't do as much damage as a DP, and I don't think it's as punishable as like a DP.
It's still punishable.
Yeah, it's punishable, but it's not like a crush counter, like at the end of your life, 70% death.
So,
combo.
You know how it's so ironic? That get-up attack is kind of like Tekken get-up attack. Like you could do like Wake Up 4 or the 3.
Yeah.
You know how it does lower or the high?
Yeah, and it's punishable.
It's punishable, but it's not like a launch punishable thing.
Yeah, it's not launch punishable, no.
So that's the reason I say ironic is, you know how we made the video about, this game is not Tekken-like.
Oh yeah,
it's got Tekken-like stuff in it now.
That was kind of Tekken-like, yeah. So that's an interesting way of doing a reversal thing in a 2D game, because like most of these games now, I guess not most, but like I guess the trend is with DPs is like a very high risk move with that. Now you have to spend meter, and when if it gets blocked, then there's like an extra damage you get, like punish counter or crush counter or whatever. But that aspect is kind of toned down. But then it's kind of like I guess like if you think about like Marvel games, you don't really have like the wake up DP concept. Is not really so much a thing in Marvel as it is in like
because
other games.
Marvel games traditionally had their own sort of get-up attacks, which wasn't really an attack. It's called the push block.
Yeah,
push
right.
blocks were the concept of a get-up attack in a way. 99% of the time you were safe if you did the push blocks. Later on, good players did come up with tech to even go through push blocks,
of course,
which is something that as humans we adapt to and we come up with ideas. So I guess I remember also the big change in terms of defense of the Alpha Lab 2 to Alpha Lab 1 was push block used to cost meter.
Oh, does it not cost meter anymore?
Now it doesn't cost meter.
Oh,
that's why it's kind of pseudo safe. I haven't played enough or seen much research data to see people to say push blocks can be punished some way.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen one yet, but it also gives me the idea that eventually it'll evolve into like a Marvel game where you can't just safely push block everything. I think there will be things where people will set up so that it'll foresee people push blocking and set up a plan B.
Yeah.
Things like that. Push the what is it? The backdash breaking.
Is it guard cancel? No, it's not guard cancel, but it's when you block something and then you can backdash out of it.
The backdash kind of option is still vulnerable to lows, which is fair, I think. But the push blocking was now meterless, whereas in the parry is still, I guess, like parrying definitely still costs meter.
Yeah.
But the advancing guard was more kind of was given.
Yeah.
For us to use as a defensive option now. So
so this is kind of that's another mechanic that's in 2XKO, right? So I think one of the things that we ran into while playing, we played each other online. We're playing from Korea. It was the U.S. server, so I guess the data had to go.
Doable.
Yeah, it was still good, and the netcode is so good that even in a situation like that, it was pretty playable.
Yeah,
and so when we're playing, and one thing that I kind of noticed, and even I noticed in your play, you have way more Marvel experience, so I noticed you were kind of more familiar with the mechanics. But I still think you probably were feeling the way I was when we were playing. We were like, oh, I forgot that this game had this, and then you started putting it into the gameplay because like you weren't push blocking at first, but then we were playing a lot of matches and you started adapting. You're like, oh, that's right, there's this, and I think this is what's going to happen with a lot of people that are playing 2XKO as long as they can stick with it. Is because there's so many things that you can do in the game that people are going to realize that people are just, when they first play, they're just going to forget that there was certain options.
Sure,
right? Because there's so many like ways to handle a situation, and I think that's good for the depth of a fighting game, of course. But then having all those options kind of makes it more. I guess you kind of can get overwhelmed, right? There's so many things to learn. And so many different mechanics, right? And learning one mechanic is not like just because you have one mechanic doesn't mean that you just that's an option that you automatically understand. Every single mechanic in the game has its own depth, right? So like you said, if you just think of push block, on the surface it's just you push somebody away when they're pressuring you. But like you said, well, is there a counterplay to it, right? How does push block work? Like what's the distance in what situations, right? And because of that, that's where a lot of the depth comes from the mechanics.
Because, see, the biggest impression of me thinking why they reverted the change back to push block not having meter, or I don't know, maybe their original design even considered that having a meter. I think because Alpha Lab 1 came with the fact that it did cost meter.
Yeah.
I get the impression that we already know in the QA side of things, the quality assurance side of things, there are many renowned players from the past who are helping out the game.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, in the span of the classic arcade versus games, let's say from the popular ones like the X-Men versus Street Fighter, all the way up to, say, Marvel Infinite.
Yeah.
Right? They all had push blocks, didn't cost any resources.
Yeah.
But push blocks were never the complaint.
Yeah.
For the players to say, oh, this is too broken or this is too much.
Yeah.
Push blocks were never a complaint. Yeah. So maybe they kind of realized, oh, push blocks, like it just should be allowed. Like just let them. And then if people figure out a way to break through it, that's great. Like let them.
Well, that's interesting, right? So push block is kind of a defensive option where now you get to push back your opponent's crazy pressure. But I guess now if you look at 2XKO, in the case of Marvel, there's no combo breaker, right? So that defensive option is not on the table. And at Marvel, there's also no backdash canceling off a block.
Yeah, that's a new thing,
right? So those defensive options are in 2XKO, and so what I see about 2XKO is that there's so many offensive and defensive options, which I think is good, right? Now, how they tune that and how they balance it, that's up to the testers to make sure that it's a good balance. But one thing I did notice with 2XKO is I felt the time was a bit short. I felt like there's a lot of timeout situations, and I'm wondering if that's the result of a lot of defensive options.
I had a bit of a mixed opinion on that because, well, in the Alpha Lab 1 phase and also some of the offline exhibitions that were available at EVO and when we played on them, timeouts was never a thing. I mean, we would know that it exists, but it was never a concern to see that it happened that frequently.
Yeah.
But at the same time, at least when I played Alpha Lab 1, I was lucky enough to play against really, really good players, right? They would come up with these super long extended combos that would last so long.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, I could say maybe that is why there was no timeouts where if you get caught by one mix-up, you're dead. But at the same time, it's like even the long combos weren't like something that I would complain about. It's like, oh, it's a versus game. This happened. Like these things happen. This is why I just accepted it, right? Alpha Lab 2, sadly, I didn't have as much time on my hands compared to Alpha Lab 1. And I also couldn't really fight against a really super good player in time because I had to
It was a shorter test period, I think, right?
And immediately I noticed some of the juggle potentials were shortened, which naturally made the combos shorter.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that was one of the complaints, actually.
Yeah. Maybe that was the complaints by the majority. Like, they didn't want to wait until, like, getting hit 50 times, or like 50 hit combos, and they got to wait their turn. And then even if they wait their turn, they get hit by one more mix-up and they're dead, right? So that was like, that maybe could have been the common complaint or the feedback they have received. So I'm assuming that's why they cut down the juggle potential shorter, which naturally meant that there's more time for neutral, which is a good thing, I suppose, so that you can actually have more movement involved in your gameplay. And even with the timeout being apparent, I looked at the clock and it was 120 seconds. So it's 2 minutes. It may not be the true Greenwich time standard 1 second, because Marvel seconds were notoriously known for it's longer than 1 second, like real seconds, right? But even then,
we should have measured the 2XKO seconds.
Yeah, we can test that out maybe from our recordings.
Oh yeah, we can just watch the recording.
2 minutes is technically, or like not real 2 minutes, but written 120 is a first. Like most fighting games, it's like as long as maybe 99 seconds. There's like Virtua Fighter is known for 60-second matches. Tekken is 60 seconds. Most Capcom games that I know are 99-second based. 120 is the first. So even then, the time wasn't enough.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they chose 120 because they wanted to have real seconds, and then they decided to just go to 120 instead of making fake seconds, that they did with the other games.
Other games,
I think Street Fighter 6 is actually real seconds. I think I measured it.
Is that?
Yeah, I want to say
science.
I want to say that those are actual real seconds. But yeah, the pacing of the game is interesting because granted we were playing I was playing Echo Jinx, and you were playing Ilaoi
and Jinx.
Jinx. Yeah, so we were kind of playing zonery characters and stuff like that, but I don't think we were playing that lame even because
we had mix-ups, we had rush downs and pressures and everything. I remember push blocking a lot because I was pressured so much. So it seemed fair enough for me.
Yeah, I think I should. I don't think I used push block when I should have. But this is one of those things where maybe near the end, you figure it out because we played one session, but the Alpha Lab 2 was not very long, so it was kind of you kind of played what you could get. And of course time zones are different too, right? But we got kind of a taste of it. But definitely there was timeout situations, and I think in Marvel games, it's the timeout situations in these tag games
are kind rare.
It's rare, and it's also not as hype. I think because it's hard to tell who has more health, right? Because it's kind of, isn't it additive where they combine the health or something?
So there was a change in that too. Usually it was additive. I think Marvel 3 was percentage based.
Ah, okay.
So every Capcom game is also notoriously known for every character has different health bar. Usually there's a standard, like Street Fighter is Street Fighter 6, let's say, is 10,000 everybody. The Marisa and Honda is 10,500 and Zangief is 11,000, right?
Yeah.
For whatever visual reasons, and even past Street Fighter was like that, Akuma, we all know, very low health. Seth, low health.
Yeah.
Marvel games also, everybody had different health. Marvel 3, I do remember a funny actual timeout incident in the tournament. So graphic-wise, visual-wise, because the health is shown as percentage, usually the case, it seemed like the Phoenix player, because Phoenix has the lowest health, I don't know the exact number. It's under 500,000. Everyone's standard is about 1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, Marvel strength is 1 million damage, whatever.
Yeah.
So 1 million is a standard, but Amaterasu is one of the lowest, but Dark Phoenix or Phoenix has the lowest because her concept is she gets stronger when she revives, right? When she dies or whatever, right? So percentage-wise, it's smaller. Percentage-wise, it may look the same if she's on half health, but the reality is she only has 200,000 health left compared to half health of a Sentinel or Thor or even Hulk is over 1 million, right?
Yeah.
Wait, Sentinel was nerfed, by the way. Sentinel's less than 1 million, but those are characters who have more than 1 million. So even if it's same 50%, Phoenix would always lose because the real numbers is lower.
Yeah. So
I do know some games percentage-wise was the priority, but some games were real value priority. So it's very, very confusing.
Yeah, that's very confusing because I think the issue with that is, so if we go back to good old Street Fighter, that's just been whoever visually has more health, right?
I believe. See this, we gotta myth bust this.
Yeah, we gotta myth. Yeah, because I don't think I've played a Street Fighter match where I had a timeout where somebody had clearly more health, but they lost. I don't remember seeing that. Maybe I haven't played enough timeouts.
I do remember one, but I gotta dig through the internet because it was in Street Fighter 5.
Yeah,
that we saw. What happened was they were both Magic Pixel.
Oh,
but okay. Magic Pixel 1 pixel is, people are confused by that. Is that really 1 HP?
Yeah.
Or 1% of their max HP? Because if it's percentage-wise, and if a character was not the standard, let's say whether it's Gief or Akuma, because they're off the standard charts, it would be a different Magic Pixel to the other.
Well, Gief has a bigger pixel.
Yeah.
Right? No. Akuma has a bigger pixel because for the same size, it will have more health, right?
Right.
Technically speaking, right?
Wait, is that the case? Now we're doing math.
Wait, so if it's visually at half, then like, okay, so let's say I'm gonna use Street Fighter 4 numbers. Okay, we're gonna make the audience listen to our
this is
crappy
gonna be
math.
so educational.
Okay, so let's say
Gives 1% would be, say, because if it was 1100, Gives 1% would be 1.1.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas in Akuma would be like 0.9.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'll try to dig up the match, and if I dig up the match that I saw that where this guy clearly has maybe a couple pixels more but still lost.
Yeah.
That's when even the commentators, I think it was Ultra David at the time.
Yeah.
He was like giving us like math lecture, like this is why he lost, even though this visually is more whatever. And it was so funny listening to that, but it was also an eye-opening moment for everybody. It's like, so this game actually goes by the real numbers rather than the percentage.
And then, this is a Core gaming video, I think.
We're actually spiraling
this can be a good little, like a short Core gaming video where we can myth bust.
Do you want to myth bust every game that we...
Well, not every game, but like, how about the major games? And then we can maybe go into some of the legacy titles for those games. Like, it'd be interesting to see.
Probably bring up a topic to see what's fairer.
Yeah.
Because now we can put an analogy of, the Korean wrestling, Shirum?
Yeah.
If a judge... if a judge comes to a decision of a draw, the wrestler with the lesser weight wins by default.
Oh.
Those rules exist.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Shirum. I know there are similar rules in other like combat sports where weight class, like lighter athlete wins by default if everyone comes to a draw decision or something like that.
That's actually super fascinating. So we're doing the research for the new video right now.
Yeah, this is happening. This is
video
our Core
on timeouts.
Video.
No, that's a very Core video. No, I didn't even think about this, but it's actually makes a lot of sense, and I guess it just doesn't happen very often.
It doesn't.
Right?
Yeah.
The situation where you visually the other person had more health, yet that person lost. That is something that's
it's a concept of handicap.
Yeah.
Right? It's a handicap thing that exists even in real life sports, like physical sports or mind sports. Like even, I can bring up another example. Say you're playing Go, Baduk Go, famously known because not recently, it's been a while. The Korean Go player Lee Sedol, he beat the AI, the Google AlphaGo, right?
Oh.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
It was on the news and everything, how humans can beat the AI, whatever.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah. So I did a bit of research, even in Go and things like chess. I don't know if the chess we know has that something a similar rule, but Chinese chess and checkers, they also have a rule where how players have a grade. So like in Go, similar to like the Tekken grade, it's like when you start the game, it's like
the ranks.
1 dan, 2 dan.
Yeah.
So I know in real life, like Taekwondo and stuff, they have dan as well. That's like your
level,
grade, your level, right? So 9 dan in Baduk Go is the highest, right?
Whoa.
But if you play against a lower dan person, you're given handicap of 5 points to the lower than player.
Okay.
Yeah. So if at the rule of Go is at the end, you count how many bases you built or like the spaces you've conquered, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the lower than player starts with like X amount of points more, where the higher than player starts with 0.
And they're cool with that? That's like
that's
an
just the international rule.
Whoa, because they had something like that in
So if you drew in the actual game, then the lower than player wins. So I think it's a form of punishment of, you're a better player. How dare you draw with this guy? You deserve to lose.
Yeah,
that's the draw format of this.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, like you couldn't have that in chess, because in chess you just you have to checkmate the king.
Yeah,
right. That's the
you just go
objective
by
of the
the
game.
actual games.
But a Go is like it's like points that you're getting from how many little fortresses
like little bases
or
you have,
bases that you make, right? I don't know. I don't play Go, so
I don't know the English
terminology.
terms either. Sorry, but we will get into this later on if we do end up making a Korean video of this.
Yeah.
But it is a fascinating topic thinking of these kind of scenarios because we faced so much timeouts in the Alpha Lab 2.
That's true. Because like you don't really think about it because like timeout's one of those things where you're just kind of there's some interesting timeout rules. I think in Dive Kick, there's that line that comes whoever's closer to that line because there's no health in the game, right? It's just one hit kills. So they have to make a different system for timeouts. But okay, so I just before I forget it, this just popped in my mind while we were talking about Go and everything. So in Street Fighter, if Akuma and Ryu are playing and nobody touches the controller and the time runs out, doesn't that mean that Ryu would always win because he has more health?
Right.
If it was health-based,
prove that it's based on percentage.
It must be percentage. And if it's based on percentage, then it's always the health bar. That's why visually the health bar is has always been consistent in my experience. I think it's probably that, right?
And see, what adds more confusion on top of that is it started from Street Fighter 5 as well. Is what if you timed out? I think it did happen in Street Fighter 4 as well. Yeah. What if you timed out with gray health left?
Oh, yeah.
So there was they see these things are never shown in the game or the
manual.
Well, people don't. There's not even manuals nowadays. But like in-game tutorial or like even if you go to the wiki, these are the things that are not there. You just have to find out the hard way.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to do some research, find out some stuff, and see how the games are doing this. Because, if you look at Street Fighter 5, this is another example. This is funny. We're going this deep dive, this rabbit hole of
I like this though.
Timeouts.
This is very
we're like talking about 2XKO, but this is our podcast, right? But
if 2XKO devs are listening, this is good research material.
Yeah. This is a so the timeouts in Street Fighter 5. There's probably a lot more draws based on that timeout system because in Street Fighter 5 there's a lot of moments where both players have like no health, right, or one health left because there are no chip kills. Remember?
Yes.
So but then like things always chipped with gray health, right? And when that depleted, there were a lot of situations where people just have like down to the exact pixel, and so. You have to think about situations like that. So that would increase draws. I guess that wasn't like a super common situation in Street Fighter 5, but I think those are the kind of things that you have to think about. But I guess the whole point about 2XKO bringing up the timeout system for me originally was that it's when it's hard to tell who's winning when the time's about to run out, then you lose the hype of the timeout situation. Remember that famous match, I think was it 2014, it was Snake Eyes and
Shen.
Shen will remember. Shen will never forget that moment.
I think Snake Eyes also remembers.
Yeah, I think Snake Eyes will also remember, but Shen will never forget that moment.
Yeah.
But he had a very huge life lead, and basically he was playing Gen, and the clock was running out, and Shen was just like, okay, I'm just going to time him out. I'm going to start running away. And immediately Snake Eyes knew and just started chasing him down with Keef. And that's scary, right? So he chased him down, and he got a situation, I think, where he did Snake Eyes caught Shen jumping and did the jumping down heavy. Is it the headbutt? Is it the neutral down heavy or something?
I think he did neutral up heavy punch.
Or up heavy.
Yeah,
that was right.
Which was
up
a
heavy.
headbutt in the corner. And usually, in that spur of the moment, you don't really even think about the anti-airing.
Yeah.
You just think about running away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that thing does so much damage and so much stun.
If it does hit you, it was notoriously known for if you did that twice to Seth, you get stunned immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was very big stun damage.
Yeah. And so in that moment, people were going crazy because they're seeing the life. It's easy to compare the life bars if there's only two, yours and the opponent's, right? So you can kind of see where the life bar is heading, and those moments get really exciting. Whereas in like a tag game, it's like, you're kind of like looking at the other life bar, which is kind of like not in the focus. And
you have to know what their assist life bar is, and then you gotta do like a visual math. It's like, is that like more than my character's health? Or,
It's kind of like kind of harder to tell. I guess if you like play the game a lot, you can kind of get a feel for it. But I realized when the time was running out, I was just like, okay, I just got to do as much damage as possible. I'm not sure like how much more damage. It's harder for me to gauge. So that's kind of like one of those visual inputs, visual cues that makes it harder in a tag game to have like a timeout situation where everybody watching can be kind of clear on what needs to be done. So that was another thing that I noticed about the timeouts. But I think generally timeouts shouldn't happen as often as we were playing. I don't know if we were playing the game wrong or weird, but I think it was pretty
I guess in a general consensus of fighting games, or competitive fighting games at least, timeouts exist so that people can continue playing the consecutive gameplay sessions. It's not something you would want to see commonly. And it is, you kind of feel something is off if you do see it commonly. That's the feeling it gives off.
Yeah.
And sometimes people, we came up with the word timer scam. There was a funny meme where it's a strategy to run away and strategy to play lame.
Yeah.
But if you lose by timeout, people call it the timer scam. It's like, oh man, this guy timer scammed me. And then that became a thing. I think originally from a funny website called the Salty Bets, because that was like a Mugen-based website where people bet cyber fake money, the Twitch tokens,
all right,
to see which funny character wins. That's another story altogether. But one really random timer scam, I wouldn't say random, but if what you do want to see usually, even if a game is ended by time, you would want to see one player win and one player lose, not draw. If a draw happens, then that's like the miracle of the probability. It's like always winning in your rock scissors paper. That's like so hard to do in an actual probability kind of thing.
Yeah, to hit a draw.
Yeah, and then when you hit a draw, then that's when all these questions arise. Oh, like what did I do wrong? Did I have enough health, or did I not do this? How come this didn't chip enough? And all this things started popping up. But yeah, it was happening too often in the Alpha Lab too. So we were like, we were playing the game in the right pace as we thought.
Yeah.
But something is a little off. That's
I feel like I'm wondering if it's a matter of tweaking the dials a little bit. Is it just a matter of adding more time? I would have been happy with that because I feel like I was enjoying the match. Even at the end, I was just like, oh, I wish we had more time because we're having a good match here. Like in Street Fighter, I don't feel when the time's running out, I feel like, okay, we've been playing this for a very long time. It's about time that it's about time that the time is going down. But like in 2XKO, I'm like, oh man, I'm having so much fun right now. Like it's already okay.
That's how I feel.
I felt like disappointed when the time went out.
I'm like, all right, I blocked this mix up. It's my turn now. And then it's like time over. I'm like, oh, what? I was enjoying this.
But I guess that's just kind of a matter of like tweaking the game a bit.
Yeah.
And another thing I noticed about the game is we're talking about mental stacks, but I guess this is kind of a little bit different. There's like the stress element, right?
Yes.
And I think all fighting games have some level of stress because you're trying to kill each other. It's like a zero-sum
kill each other
genre.
Efficiently.
Yeah, efficiently and in a small period of time, right? Before the timeout, if you can. But yeah, one of the things was like I remember you're very good with your assist. You used Ilawi's, one of Ilawi's assists that extended the pressure.
Right. She brings out like the tentacle, and then it becomes like a totem. It like keeps on attacking you. Yeah.
And I was forgetting to use a push block, so I was just eating it. I was like, whoa, this is like I guess that's what push block is for.
Yeah.
Right, so that you can have oppressive things like that. But it felt very. I felt whenever the offense. You got your offense started and it's like really, really oppressive. It felt oppressive, right?
Yeah.
And I think this is why they give you defensive options, and of course there's push block, and then there's guard canceling, and all the other options. But did you feel that way when you were playing against me? Did you feel the stress of like certain situations where there's lots of stuff going on, assists coming out, and I mean it felt. I don't want to say chaotic,
right?
But it was kind of, it was a bit overwhelming. I think Maximilian Dude actually made a tweet about it. Something about like I don't know if my old man brain can handle this or something like this.
Right.
Where he's like, and I kind of identified with that because I was like, I think there's kind of a feeling of being overwhelmed, but then you have a lot of tools to fight back. So it's like. it's like both players are kind of overwhelming each other. Like
pretty much because it's like I don't know, but Marvel players, like if you watch the Marvel players play, at least in a professional level, it can be visually chaotic, which everybody understands. There's more than 2 characters on the screen. That's because usually 2 characters is the textbook fighting game one-on-one style, right?
Yeah.
But now there's like 3, 4, and then sometimes like 6 if you want it to be.
Yeah.
It happens, but I like the term controlled chaos. The players know what they're doing, and to the trained eye, you also know what is happening.
Sure.
And then in terms of repetitiveness, like if you see certain things or know that certain things are happening in an order, let's say like the mix-up, if it starts from character A and then the assist comes from character B, you kind of expect to know, okay, so this sort of pattern is mostly used to have a purpose, whether it's to make them block low or make to corner carry and things like that, and kind of know what's going to happen based on how many meter they have and whether they're in the middle of the screen or the corner, things like that. It is definitely a controlled chaos environment where I think Marvel style players are more used to than your Street Fighters or the Tekkens, right?
Yeah.
And me as a Marvel player myself, blocking is fun in those controlled chaotic games.
Yeah.
Because other than the fact that you successfully just blocked all the mix-up, it's like as if you are listening to a style of music that you never understood, but you kind of get it. Mm-hmm. It's like that kind of thing.
There's a rhythm to it, yeah.
Yeah, because let's say the aggressor is like a orchestra, and let's say you're not really a fan of classical music. Maybe you're just a fan of, like, say, K-pop. And then you got invited to a classical music, like an orchestra kind of environment thing with your friend, and then you're listening to it, and then suddenly if you get into it, like you understand not just how the music is in your ear, but you kind of understand.
You're expecting the notes to hit at a certain time,
that, plus like you kind of feel, this music players, let's say if it's a cello player, has to go through these kind of things to achieve this kind of music, right?
Yeah.
You kind of get into the depth of things, of how this harmony is created. Yeah. So the defensive aspect of Marvel is like that for me. Like, I'm facing against this team I've never seen, but I kind of feel the rhythm. I kind of see the visual representation, and then now I incorporate that into. It would start off as a guess, but then the more you play, it's like, this is when I block low and high. But this is happening in a very, very fast pace, like in a split second kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's more of like a communication between the two players, and whereas you start to understand more, that's where your defense develops.
Yeah, I think I'm wondering now if this is something that you kind of have to train yourself on as well, right? If you're completely new to Marvel, you're not going to find that rhythm, right? The music,
be very difficult.
The music's going to sound very foreign and strange. And you don't know where the notes are supposed to land, and the rhythms might be really odd. But once you understand the game's mechanics and how the assists work, and how there's kind of like a certain time limit.